What's going on, everybody? On the left, this is going to be a market recap video for the DOTS bias trading indicator. Today is Monday, July 21st. So this is market replay, 1 minute chart of the NASDAQ futures. So the market opens when the dots are mixed. I do nothing. When the dots are mixed, I do nothing. So one thing that I want to illustrate is something I like to call the one dot entry function, which is where on a 1 minute chart, if the dots are all green, I will buy the close of the 1 minute candle that corresponds with the first column of all green dots, and vice versa for red. Ideally, I like to take a dots setup, a one dot entry function, to liquidity. So you can see coming into the day, this swing point right here was the previous day high. This was the high from last Friday, which is also all-time highs. So ideally, I like to take dots setups, momentum setups, to liquidity. So I'll show you what happened when we took that liquidity. So you can see the one dot entry function occurred as we hit all-time highs. So letter of the law, this is a setup. So what you do is you buy the close of the 1 minute candle. You look at the ATR, 13 points, add 2 or 3 points to that, call it 16 points, close enough for government work. So you risk 16 to make 16. So I did not take this setup in real time because, again, we hit the previous day highs as the setup was forming. And like I said, I like to take dots setups to liquidity. So this setup ended up working without me. You can see that it almost hit your stop, but the setup ended up working. So on the right hand side, I have the trade that I ultimately ended up taking. I'll get to that in a second. So when the dots are all green, so we had a one dot entry function set up here. Something else I like to look at is what are the EMAs doing. So the green is 8, the white is 20, I think. Close enough. And then the blue line is the VWAP. So I like to see how the EMAs are holding, if they are, and how the 1 minute fair value gaps are doing. So this fair value gap held. This didn't trade. There's a little fair value gap in here. This held. So this to me is very, very bullish. So when the dots are all green, you are either long and managing longs, long and out, or looking for a long, or finally you're not looking to short this. So I have a saying, don't fade the dots. So this is the setup that I ended up taking. You can see we just melted higher, very strong, fair value gaps holding. Not sure if I have that shows it. Fair value gaps holding. So the setup I ended up taking was something called the initial balance break, which basically uses the first hour from 9:30 to 10:30. If price closes in the upper half, then there is a 83% chance of the high getting taken. So basically, I was looking for a long setup going into 10:30 to take out this high. I realized that given this entire move that this was a small target, but I just want a little piece, and then size accordingly and be on with my day. So you can see on the right, I expected this high to get taken. We had bullish green dots. Fair value gaps were clearly holding this whole way up. The EMAs were still holding, and then I was using the initial balance statistics. There will be a link in the bio to NQ stats at Probable Chris. And then that was, show the fills, that was a setup that I ended up taking. So the one dot entry function worked. I used my discretion to avoid it, but it ended up working. So it was a pretty straightforward day. I like being done in the morning. The dots worked well today, long and strong. So pretty straightforward day. I got in on this initial balance setup with the EMA's holding, Fair Value Gap's holding. So from here to here, very small. I think it was like 14, 15 points. I'm content with enough. That's the recap for the day. Hope you have a good one.